simple. In 1 minute, normally we are done. I'll show you why. Okay, we did switching, we did with DCP. We did some labs on Saturday. And okay, DCP version 6, this one we do them during the revisions. HSRP. So I'm going to show you a picture. So here, just we config. I'll show in one picture only and done. So FH, what it stands for, first hop redundancy protocols. It's the same thing like you have two cars. If one fails, you have plan B. And you can still continue with your business, or you can still continue work. It's the same thing. It's two routers or a set of routers we put together, and if one fails, the other one take over. That's all. So this is the deal here. Oh, I come here. So I have my company, all my PCs are inside, and we need to go to the internet. Let's say I'm a bank. Internet connection is extremely important. If I only have one router to go to the internet or to connect to the internet, and the network or the link fails, you can see that everyone is in trouble. So we need business. And so in IT, we have what we call the 999, the 5 nines. So your business should be up and running the whole year, 99.999%. So it should be always up and running. So if your business is very critical, like banks or I don't know, it's good for you to create a team, if I can say so, a team of routers. It can be 2 or 3. Then you configure one as the main one, and the other one are standby. So in case the main one fails, standby one, for example, can take over. When the main one is up and running again, you can do a config to say that, okay, in case I come back again, I will be again the main one, so switch back to me. Else, you can configure and leave the one who took over as a main. So these 3 routers, we're going to combine them as one router, called a virtual router. The same thing we did for Ether channels. We combine the physical port to become one logical port. It's the same thing here. We combine a lot of routers, sorry, to become only one router, one virtual router, so that inside, if one fails, other one are still there. That's all for this chapter, nothing else. Now we need to configure properly, and so you can read this one, then you can continue. So when the active router fails, the redundancy protocol transitions the standby router to a new active router or role. These are the steps that take place when the active router fails. If the active router fails, what will happen? The standby router stops seeing hello message from the forwarding router. So the main router always will send hello to the standby to say, I'm still here, I'm still around, I'm still around. If the standby cannot see this hello message, you say, this is 30 seconds, I didn't receive any hello, let me take over. You see, that's all. Now, that protocol we're going to use to combine all of them for this jumping stuff is called FHRP, First Hop Redundancy Protocol. And inside, we have many types, like iPhone 1, iPhone 10, iPhone 11, iPhone 15. So these are some options. We do the same thing, but depending on the flavor. Are you using all Cisco routers in your company? Or are you using one Huawei, one Cisco, one Dell, what? Then you can choose which one you. So in 2 minutes, I'll try to check here and we continue. So for us as Cisco, we're going to use a lot HSRP. HSRP is a Cisco proprietary FHRP, and yeah. So we have many. So that's all. Anything else? It's a lot of readings. It's a lot of readings. So you can also check this picture. Router 1 and router 2. We're going to combine them to become one virtual router. Now, the thing is, if router 1 is the main router, all these pieces down here, if they want to go to the internet, their default gateway will be G001 of router 1 because he's the main router. They need to use that default gateway to go to the internet. Now, if R1 fails, how are you going to go back and configure again and change? So if router 2 takes over, how are you going to come back manually, change always? No, it's too difficult. So we combine R1 and R2 in one virtual router, and that virtual router IP address will become the default gateway of everyone. So that if R1 fails or R2 fails, they still can continue using the system, the internet. Yeah. If you configure router 1 as the main and you add preemption, it means I'm down, yes. But in case I'm up again, I will become again the main router. If in your config you don't add preempt, router 2 will stay the main router. So check this one, then we continue. Okay. So anything else is only some readings, and I'll show you an example of configuration. I'm showing an example of config here. So if router, if I want router 1 to become the main router, let me check. Yeah, so this is you go to the global config mode, the interface facing the LAN. Yeah, you see here. G001, the interface facing the LAN. You go here and you do your config. So interface G01, for example. So configure HSRP on G01 LAN interface of R1. You go to that interface facing the LAN. Now specify the HSRP protocol version number. The most recent version is version 2. Then you type standby version 2. And yeah, you just need to follow all these. Configure the IP address of a virtual default gateway. This address must be configured on any host that requires the service of the default gateway. So now the default gateway won't be on R1, but the IP address of the virtual router. All this info will be given you in the question paper. So this address must be configured on any host that requires the service of the default gateway. It replaces the physical interface address of the router that has been. Yeah. Multiple instances of HSRP can be configured on a router. You must specify, and you must specify HSRP group number to identify the virtual interface between HSRP group. So you can configure many of them. So here, for example, is group 1, standby 1 IP address of the virtual router. And if I want R1 to become the main one, I set the priority the highest. Step D, designate the active router for the group. It's the router that will be used as default gateway device unless it's specify the priority. The default value is 100. A higher value will determine which router is active router. So the default is, if you don't configure, the default is 100. If you want R1 to become the big boss, you put a higher one. And if it fails and it comes back again, and you want him to take over again, you add preempt. That's all. We'll do some labs on that. So for now, just have a look on the config. Yep. If you have any questions, feel free to ask.
Mr. Mike, Mr. Max.
Yes, Engineer Johannes.
When they're saying this address must be configured on the host that require the services of a default gateway, are you meaning that the IP address that was meant for the default gateway on the router must then be removed there and be manually captured on the nodes, like all your PC that's supposed to have access to that router. Is that how I
Okay.
understand?
Yeah, good question. So this is my network. So I want to combine to implement HSRP in my network. I have router 1, I have router 2. So this piece is down here. To go to internet, we need a default gateway where the traffic, where the data will go, will exit to go to the internet.
Yes.
So instead of adding the default gateway of R1 on all these pieces, what if R1 fails? None of them will go to the internet because their default gateway is pointing to R1.
Okay.
If you put R2, manually you come in add, else or in your server, in your DHCP server, you can configure that, like we saw on Saturday. You can configure on the DHCP server the default gateway so that it can push to all the pieces. If you give the IP of router 2 to all these guys, what if R2 fails? Then to avoid all these things, we combine these two in one virtual router, and we have an IP address for that virtual router that we configured on the DHCP server, and that DHCP will push to all the devices in the company.
When you say push, you mean you will then it will be done dynamically, or uh, the gateway of the virtual root gateway IP addresses must
Yes, I
be
hear
then
you.
or be configured.
So if it's a small network, you can do manually, but if it's a big network, the DHCP configuration we did on Saturday, I'm going to show you.
Yeah.
I'm going to show you. Yeah, I like question. At least it helps us to understand more. And yeah, so let's see this configuration here. When you configure your DHCP, first thing first, you must specify the IP address you want allocate to anyone. Static address, the excluded address.
Okay.
Then you create a pool or a box of chocolate that you're going to share to the kids. That box must have a name.
Okay.
So IPDC pool. Now inside your box, how many chocolate do you have? What is your network? Where the server will pick one address and send to someone. So you specify your
Okay.
network. So the DHCP will send, if a PC is requesting an IP, the server will check in my pool which IP is available and send to him.
Oh, okay.
Also, you need to configure the default gateway, default router. So it's here, we don't put the IP now. So here in our case, the default router or the default gateway will be for this guy.
Okay.
But in our case of FHSRP or what, we
Yeah.
want to use the IP of a physical router, but for the virtual one. So here we put for the
Okay.
virtual one so that it will push, if a PC needs an IP, it will receive an IP plus the default gateway
So
of the virtual router.
okay, I see.
So it's automatic instead of yourself manually. So you do the config on the DHCP server, or if it's a
Mm,
small network, then you do manually.
okay. All right. So on your exams, they will provide you the virtual default gateway IP
Yeah, that's
addresses.
that's a good question. Also, let's check an example of lab. Let's check chapter 9, HSRP configuration. So here we have router 1, router 2. router 3. Then you see here it's given.
Okay, all right.
It's there.
All right. No, I'm sorted.
Okay, cool. Thank you very much for the good questions. They help us to understand more. And we'll send you all the steps. Go here, do this. After that, we'll tell you disconnect R1 and see what will happen. Can the PC still go to internet? You see. Then we're going to ask you bring back R1 and check. So we can see if you say show standby. If on a router you tap show standby, it will show if R1 is the main one or the standby one. State is active. And then you see active router is local. It means myself R1, I'm the local router and I'm the active router, the main router, and preemption has been enabled. It means if I fail and router 2 takes over, the standby takes over, in case I go live again, I take over again. If you don't put this one, R2 will stay the main one, the active router. And you can see the priority you configured. You can see even the standby router normal IP address. And you'll see your virtual router IP address. This is the default gateway that will be published to all the PCs, all the devices in your network. So it's a very good command, show standby.
So sorry, man, Master Max. One more question.
Yes.
Uh, that configuration that you just showed us now, is it only done
Yeah.
on one router or on both routers? Are you doing
No, we
on
do
both
on all
routers?
routers. On all
Oh,
routers.
okay, all right,
Yeah. Because
all right.
all routers, we should have the same version 2. We should
Mm.
have the same virtual IP address. So here, for example, what is it? Yes, this one is the virtual interface or
Router.
the virtual router should be here. And number one is if you make a lot of grouping, it depends on how you configure. But for us here, it's only one grouping, one group, one block. Then we see okay, only
So
for block. Yes.
so the one that you say is a standby one priority 150. You say the highest, it will determine which one is to be the main router.
Yes. Yes.
So
So
now, if
uh-huh.
you do on your router number two, you say F1 R1 config FT standby one priority. Now you have this configuration on both.
No, this one.
So
So on R2, the priority will be lower.
oh, okay, okay.
Yeah.
Lower to 199
Yeah.
or lower to
Um, because by default it's 100.
okay,
Yeah. So if
okay.
you, yeah.
So I assume R1 will be 100. If I mean R1 will be 150 and R1 will be 100 as a default.
Yeah. So here on R1 we did configure 150. On R2 it will be 100 or 110, for example, because it's still lower than
Okay.
150. You
Yes.
see, the
Okay.
default value is 100. A higher value will determine which router is active router. So on all
Okay.
routers, you do the same config. Be careful
All
on the
right.
priority. It's where the router will know, am I very active or what?
Oh, okay. So you just lower your priority numbers so to avoid the confliction between the routers to dominate which one is the main router,
Yes,
if I
correct.
understand.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, pleasure. Yeah, so we'll do this lab on Saturday. You can also tap show standby brief. It will show you all. If I'm on R1, it will show me my state. I'm the active router. It will show my priority. This is the standby router IP, router 2, and the virtual that we use is this. So it displayed 9 information for us. If you go on R3 state, it will say I'm the standby. Why? Because my priority is 100, is lower than 150. And who is the standby router? It's myself. And the virtual IP is the same on top. So it's a very good comment. So after that, we'll play around. We'll make R1 to go down, and we'll see how R3 will become. So if R1 goes offline and you come to R3, you tap show standard brief, you'll see that state, it will be active. It will be the big boss now. Why? Because R1 is dead or it's offline. Now I take over. The state will be active. So we'll do that. We'll do that in a lab on Saturday. That's all for this chapter.
Hi, Mr. Max.
Yes.
I just want to know, man, which lab is this?
Who is talking to Mr. Max today? Am I laughing? It's a simple, it's a simple question, huh? And you know why. um, okay, so this lab is 933.
933. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Yeah, so you can yourself play around. Just follow the steps. It's very simple, easy. So this one is the PDF. If you open the packet tracer 99933, you can open it. I didn't close the other one for Saturday. Yeah, it's going to open for us. Yeah, so it's the same lab. The same instructions. You just need to follow with steps and yeah. Yeah. So configure HSRP will guide you on R1 and configure on R1. You just follow the steps. On step 2, you configure the same thing on R3. Be careful of its priority. And then we verify, show standby, or on each router, yeah, you can tap show standby, and you'll check some good information here. So here we ask you which router is the active router. You can see that in R1, the priority is 150. And you can see that it's active router. So R1 is the active router. If you go down here, standby router is local, it's R3. Preemption is disabled, it means I'm not the main one. And it will display the IP of the active router. Also the virtual router IP address. You can also see your state. State is standby. On R1, state is active. Same thing for show standby brief. Any questions before we end this session for today? So it's a good chapter. If you want to be a network engineer, you must know a lot of options. And depending on your client or your company, you say, okay, I can apply this because it will work better for us. So if you don't have any questions, then it's fine. On Wednesday, we'll continue with the other chapter. It's land security. If it's too short, we continue with switch security. Normally, by end of this month, we should be able to finish. So that next month, we start the revisions, we start doing a lot of labs to prepare you for your exams. Wireless, it's very simple. Routing, it's easy. We did a bit already. And CCNA1, that was the most difficult because everything was new and what. Now we know where to go, what to do. You go in your NETA card, you watch some videos. Okay, thank you very much. If no questions, we'll meet again on Wednesday with chapter 10 and 11 if we have time.
Okay, thank you.
Enjoy evening. See you later. Goodbye.
Bye, sir.